breaking news to start NFL Live. Adam Schefter, tell us what's going on in Washington.
RC, Terry McLaurin and the Washington Commanders have reached agreement on a 3-year deal worth up to $96 million. McLaurin was entering the last year of his contract and obviously looking for a raise. The two sides have been discussing a deal. We are at August 25th. The season opens next week. The Commanders are busy getting ready for the regular season opener against the New York Giants. McLaurin hasn't practiced this summer, and if there were a time to get a deal done to keep alive his chances of playing in that regular season opener, this would be it. This morning, they reached agreement on a deal that will end his hold-in, allow him to get back on the practice field, and means he'll suit up week 1.
Welcome to NFL Live. The voice you just heard and the face you just saw was Adam Schefter. I'm Ryan Clark, your host today. Phil Yates and Dan O sitting with me. Dan O, listen, I've been working with you this entire offseason, and you talked about how important it was to get Terry McLaurin signed, not only for the Commanders, but for their young quarterback, Jaden Daniels. What do you think of the deal?
Massive, needed. You weren't a real contender in the division without Terry McLaurin. I also think just bring it to the football field. This offense without Terry McLaurin was playing in red zone spacing in the open field. Meaning when you play down in the red zone as an offense, everyone talks about how the field gets shrunk down. The defense only has to defend 20 yards of depth, 30 yards of depth. It would have been the case in the open field without Terry McLaurin like that. Teams would just have played so much closer to the line of scrimmage. Now with Terry back, you get the vertical presence of your offense back. The Jaden Daniels rookie season that we saw with so many of those magical throws downfield, not only the clutch ones, but that connection. It also allows Debo to live in Debo's role. It also allows the Luke McCaffrey to live in the Luke McCaffrey role. So the impact that he has on this football team and its ability to win games, I think is on par with the Jamar Chase and a Justin Jefferson because of the way that he allows that offense and specifically Jaden to push the ball downfield.
One more football note. You said they're playing with red zone spacing right now. Now they can go back to normalcy, but in the red zone, he also was their best player by far last season. Last season when Jaden Daniels targeted Terry McLaurin in the red zone, he was 12 of 14, 9 touchdowns. That's bonkers, silly video game numbers. On top of the football impact, I think we all know this, and I've talked about this throughout the offseason. He's on the short list, if not the most respected player in the entire locker room. This is the kind of guy that could one day win the NFL's Walter Payton Man of the Year award. That's the kind of respect that Terry McLaurin has around the league. It's not easy to deal with any contract negotiation. It's especially difficult when this is a guy who has been through so much and been sort of the exemplary part of the locker room. Obviously, Jaden Daniels' arrival has totally changed the trajectory of this franchise, but Terry McLaurin was the kind of player that did everything right during the most difficult times for Washington RC. This was a must-do to get done. I'm glad they found some middle.
Yeah, for me, it's about common sense prevailing, about understanding what Terry McLaurin means to this team, not only with this production and what we see on the field, but what he means to this team in the locker room, how he helped a young Jaden Daniels become the offensive rookie of the year. And the one thing you don't want is to have this team set back by not signing one of their best football players, but also one of their best people. And if you're the Washington Commanders, you're trying to figure out how to make back-to-back playoffs since the last time I won the 12-year-old Little League championship as a quarterback of the Terrytown
12-year-old Little League football
championship.
What position?
Quarterback. I was the quarterback. Absolutely.
A lot of options.
Let's get to some more top stories with Shefty. Terry McLaurin, not the only person looking for a new deal. Tell us what's going on with Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons also would like a new deal, but he and the Cowboys have not discussed one in months. And once again, Micah Parsons not at practice again today. The Cowboys open their season a week from Thursday night, and it doesn't look like Parsons will be able to play. And if he does, he will be limited at best with the fact that the two sides have not been able to get a deal done, and Parsons hasn't practiced all summer. Meanwhile, the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson at least have some dialogue going. They recognize the time on the calendar it is. We'll see if the two sides can figure out a way to get a deal done. They've been trying to get a deal done for the better part of 2 off seasons and really 4 years. If you really look at it, no deal yet. We'll see if they could find a way. And just in, to ESPN's NFL Live. The Houston Texans are not going to activate Joe Mixon by Tuesday's 4 p.m. Eastern deadline. He will be moved to the non-football injury active list. Well, basically, he cannot play the first 4 games of the season at least. Now, this has been a very mysterious injury. He essentially was on the non-football injury list, which means it was an ankle injury that wasn't related to something that he did on the football field. He will miss at least the first 4 games. And until somebody says something different, I think there are questions about when and if Joe Mixon will play again this season.
This is absolutely huge news, not only for the Houston Texans as a team, but for third-year quarterback C.J. Stroud. Dan, how big is this news about Joe Mixon?
Absolutely enormous. One of the best backs in football. This is an offense down in Houston that is, to your point, third-year C.J. Stroud, breaking in a new offensive coordinator, Nick Caley, and relatively 5 new offensive starters as a group together. So to not have the premier back attached to that is a big deal. Second of all, we've worked with him long enough. If Schefter is saying something about the uncertainty of post the 4 games, there's that makes me give a lot of hesitation to what Joe Mixon's future is like going to be after those 4 games.
Yeah, and what scares me about this is Joe Mixon was so important to this team, the physicality that he played with, even on a team that wasn't great up front last year. And so now you're thinking about C.J. Stroud, who has all of these weapons on the outside. That play action game, to me, is going to be a huge part of his success. And I think it takes a big hit without having Joe Mixon on the field. You don't know if it's going to be 4 games or more, but for the hopes of D'Amico Ryans and his team, you definitely hope he's back sooner than later. Let's get to some Week 3 preseason play. We have Dylan Gabriel versus Shedeur Sanders. I mean, I thought it was the Cleveland Browns versus the Rams. Hey, listen, we're going to start out with Dylan Gabriel in the 2-minute. This is going to be a great throw. He's going to go up top, Dan. What do you see from Dylan Gabriel here?
His timing and anticipation really has started to show out on the third downs. The ball comes out before the receivers are looking for it, and that leads to those guys being comfortable with yards after the catch. And the vision that he displays, pretty strong traits.
Dylan Gabriel extremely sharp during his...
You saw in the Carolina game, he had a similar situation where he moves and then throws the touchdown.
The bowl game, that's a 24-yard sack, but the Cleveland Browns do win the game 19-17. Derek Carr questioned the Browns' decision to pull Sanders late in the 4th quarter. He tweeted, "I need to understand why we don't get to see Shedeur Sanders run this 2-minute drill. Wouldn't you want to see your young QB operate in this situation, get him more reps for the future? I didn't see the whole game, so maybe he already showed enough. Help me understand this." The questioning of Stefanski continued during his press conference availability on Sunday.
Can you address this sort of persistent narrative that that you're trying to sabotage Shedeur Sanders, especially after yesterday and not putting him in for the 2-minute?
Yeah, obviously, I don't concern myself with outside type of things, but